Very good day everyone. My name is Mark Bluimakers and I'm a lecturer at the Department of European Studies and Oriental Languages and Communication. Now I have been asked by your lecturers at International Business to provide you with some additional instructions on how to present your business plan. As you know, the plan that you're currently writing needs to be presented later in the block to an internal as well as an external jury. And this is quite challenging. So what I've tried to do is create 3 web lectures that help you in creating and preparing the optimal presentation of your business plan. Now each of these lectures of course is devoted to different topics, and for this one, the first one, we will focus on goals, contents and structure. So what is it that you actually want to achieve with your presentation, what sort of information should be in there, and how should you structure or order this information in order for it to be most effective. Now, the assignment that's been given to you is also written in the course manual, and it appears quite simple at first glance. It says, present your business plan in 15 minutes. Unfortunately, what I've noticed in recent years is that some students take this to mean the same as summarize your business plan in 15 minutes. And the two are actually quite different things. It's practically impossible to summarize your business plan in 15 minutes because it's full of elaborations and calculations and all sorts of additional details that are relevant but not really suitable to present in 15 minutes. So you need to change the mindset. Don't strive to provide a summary of your business plan, but try to present it in an optimal way. What you actually want to achieve with your presentation is not so much tell everything there is to know about your business plan. What you want to achieve is that you want to convince the jury of the soundness of your idea. So you've come up with a new product or service and you want to convince the jury that this holds promise. And the jury should feel after your presentation that your idea is unique. The jury should also feel that your idea is realistic. The jury should also feel that your idea is financially viable, and they should feel that your idea will lead to success, because they're basically investors and it's success that they're looking for, because success for you also means success for them. Now if you look at these 4 goals, you will notice that the word feel figures prominently in each of them, and this is no coincidence. Presentations are really good at changing people's feelings about a particular topic. They're not so suitable for sharing a lot of information. So the presentation should be less about sharing knowledge and much more about creating a positive vibe, a positive feeling among the members of the jury. Detailed information should of course be included in the plan, but not really in the presentation. You only have 5 minutes and your ambitions with respect to the information that should be included should therefore be quite limited. What does it mean for the structure? Now, what many groups do in the conviction that they need to summarize their plan is that they basically use the same structure for the presentation as they've used for the plan. So they'll first talk a little bit about the company, the market, promotion, finances, and implementation. And when they do so, they run the risk of including too much information, including information in an order that's not really natural to the jury, and that is why we will refer to this structure as the wrong structure. It's the right structure for the plan, for the written document, but not for the presentation. For the presentation, you really need to use a different approach. Now, what is the approach that we're proposing here? Basically, it is that you answer a number of questions. First question that you want to answer is, what is the idea? Make the plan, the product, the service, make it concrete so that people can visualize it. And this is actually the thing that needs to be done first, because otherwise people will not be able to understand the rest of the presentation. Next, you need to address the topic of the target group. Who is this product actually for? Who will be interested? When the jury members get this idea early on in the presentation, they will be able to see already the potential for success, hopefully, of course. And when they've seen this success, you will explain to them that they've seen it right, that they got it right. So you will explain why your idea will be a success. What evidence do you have that people are actually waiting for this? People do actually want to buy this. Um, that's really important, of course. It's perhaps even the most important bit of information in the whole presentation, but we'll come back to that later. Of course, success also depends to some extent on you on your promotion, because the idea can be great, but if people don't know about it, it's not going to work out. So how will the idea be promoted is another really relevant question that needs to be answered. And the last one is also typical for the presentation, because the jury plays the role of investors. They want to make the decision about whether or not they should invest in your idea. So at the end, summarize what's in it for them. What do they have to gain when they decide to invest in your idea? And that's really important as well. Now, where do you get the information to answer these questions? Obviously, you can just take them from the plan. But what you do need to realize is that the linear order of the plan is not the linear order of the presentation. So the information that answers the questions, what is the idea, can come from different chapters. And the same is true for every other question in the structure. So what you need to do is select and reorganize the relevant information so that it fits this structure. What else can be said about contents? Well, an important part of your presentation is the introduction, because in your introduction you have to set the stage. You have to basically make sure that the jury sits up and take notice. And to do that, of course, you need to do a few things. And the first thing is that you need to indicate the goal of your presentation. Tell the jury why you are there. Unfortunately, again, many students open a presentation by saying something along the lines of, "We will talk about our business plan." Now, strictly speaking, this is true. You will be talking about your business plan, but this is not the goal, because the goal is not to share as much knowledge as you possibly can. The goal is to convince the jury. And you can say that to them. You can say, "We will try to convince you that our new product is really promising and that you should invest in it." Another thing that you need to do, let's drop the "we will talk about" from the system. Get it out of your system, don't ever use it again, and always state explicitly that you will try to convince people. What you also need to do is capture the jury's attention. They have been listening to presentations all day, right? It depends a bit on the timing of your particular presentation. But you can you can be assured that they're quite tired, and you have to make sure that they sit up and take notice of you. You can do this by telling them a story about how and when you got the idea for the product, or by asking them a question related to your idea. This just breaks the routine a little bit and makes sure that the jury actually pays attention to what you're going to say. And that's the second function of the introduction. The third function is that you need to present the contents of the presentation. This is fairly simple. Just include a slide with a table of contents. The table of contents, of course, is the structure that we saw on the previous slide. Another important concept to consider is the take-home message, because human memory, even though it's better than the memory of most other animals, still has its limitations. And research has shown that most information in oral presentations is forgotten. Now you might wonder, why are we doing a presentation if this is true? What is actually the point? Well, the point is that a presentation may not really be good for sharing a lot of information, but it is really good for engaging people, for making people feel enthusiastic about something. Information is secondary to that. So what you need to do is limit the information and think about the most important information in your presentation. And this is referred to as the take-home message of your presentation. If the jury can remember only a single thing from your presentation, what should it be? Now, how do you find this single bit of most important information? Well, given this context, the context of a business plan, it's quite likely to come up in the answers to the following questions. Either, why will your idea be a success? Because that's really important to show the potential. Or, what's in it for the investors? This is where the most important information will be. And maybe you can think of 3 reasons why your idea will be a success. Well, 3 reasons is good, of course, but still I would advise you to highlight one of them, choose one of them as your take-home message, and highlight that in the presentation. So if this is the only thing that people will remember after 15 minutes, you should still be happy because you probably still got the message across that you wanted to get across. Now, how do you highlight this information? Well, simply by repeating it multiple times and also by always mentioning it first when it is part of a list. So select the most important bit of information and make sure that it figures prominently in the presentation. And if you do that, then the jury will remember the right thing and they will still have a positive impression at the end of the presentation, even though they forgot most of the things that you said. And the fact that they forgot most of the things is not even problematic because you will be providing them with a handout and they also have the plan at their disposal. So any information that they might want to look at later on is still available for them. Now, how do you make sure that you capture their attention not just during the introduction, but also during the rest of the presentation? Because 15 minutes doesn't seem like a long time. You might say, well, they should be able to pay attention for 15 minutes. But as I said, they probably have been listening to other presentations before. It might be a warm day, and you don't know what their attention span is like. So 15 minutes doesn't seem like a long time, but if you bombard people with information, if you just give them facts and figures and graphs, then your presentation will become really boring. I just want to illustrate that by showing you a short video of a Russian professor who does seem to be taking this approach. So what he is doing, might take a while for the video to load, what he is doing is just telling his audience whatever he knows about political science in this case, and it doesn't really engage the audience, it doesn't really capture their attention, and you would be tempted to fall asleep if you had to listen.
Ну и так далее, и так далее. Мы эту линию раскроем, но я хочу прервать свои рассуждения, отметить очень важные обстоятельства, которые, конечно, следует отметить, особенно в этой аудитории, хотя и в этой аудитории действительно важно как бы произносить. Вы знаете, скажем, Путин.
Okay, so this is just to give you an idea of how not to do it. I think you can imagine how boring it would be to actually have to listen to this man for an entire lecture. Now make sure that your presentation does not make these mistakes. And of course, eye contact is also really relevant, and eye contact in this case was completely absent. So you need to engage them. And another thing you can do to keep them awake is use the sprinklers. So you need to think of other ways. How do you keep the attention of the audience? Well, one thing you can do is promote interaction by asking questions. So you might want to change the roles a little bit. It's not just you talking and them listening, but they might actually be talking as well and you might be listening. So ask them a question, listen for their answer, and try to incorporate that in some way in your presentation. Interaction helps keep people awake, obviously. And another thing that people prefer is that they listen to experiences and stories rather than facts and figures. So statistics might be really meaningful, they might carry a lot of information, but in some cases this information is not what people are looking for in a presentation. They just want to hear personal experience. So share these with your audience and that will help them stay alert and awake. And also make sure that you tell them something they didn't know. And this might seem really obvious, but make sure that your presentation has surprising elements in it, right? Because that helps to keep them awake. You may have to make sure that you present in an engaging way so that they will remember your performance once you've finished. Okay, so this was the first web lecture. In the second one, we will be talking about different topics. We will talk about how to use PowerPoint, how not to use PowerPoint, how to prepare for your presentation, which is especially important because it's a group presentation, so it's not always obvious what is the best way to prepare, how to answer difficult questions, and how to battle your nerves. So we're going to look less at content and structure and more at the delivery, the actual presentation itself. Thanks for your attention, and I hope to see you all back here for web lecture number 2. Thanks.